Jason.
Never in my life associated the word boring with baseball.
We know what's up.
Me? Yeah. Famous? Yeah.
And I'm like giddy over there smiling like, we're about to win this shit.
Did everyone give you crap? Give me a good host story.
I'm not picking it up.
We both love the game.
We talk about it every day.
Can't get enough baseball.
Having some popcorn, you're fooling around your phone.
I'd have to wait in line for 3 hours.
Hang on, because it's about to be a wild ride.
There's no human being on the planet I'd rather be talking to more than Jason Larocque right now. Yes.
Thank you. Not many people say that, but
No, every time I see you, I know that I'm going to learn something. I know that I'm going to be inspired. You've been on this is third time you've been on the podcast. I counted. Third time.
Yeah, I have to be in the higher end of the guest list now, which I appreciate.
You are in tier 2. Tier one is the person we had on yesterday, which is Lucas Giolito. So,
okay.
But there's always like a tier 1 guys that just come back over and over and over again. I think tier 2 is maybe the most impactful tier because it shows that how good you are that you keep coming back. It shows that you're bringing information, enlightenment, education, entertainment, all of it, and you're back.
Authenticity.
Hold on, let me write that one down. That's a good one. All right. Well, we've talked a lot, and honestly, like every time, the other 2 times you've come on, the second time was with Jared Porter, and we have great conversations. And honestly, Jason, you have great reaction from it. And that's the thing that makes me feel good about it because we sort of obsessed over, we're going to talk to players. Well, we get great reaction because the topic is so important. Topic about men's health, boys' health, young people's health, mental health, all of it. And I do want to, before I get going, and we're going to be talking about the Behind the Smile initiative, which is your latest or this year's campaign for the Movember Foundation. In case people don't know, the Movember Foundation is an international nonprofit aimed at men's health, helping men's health. And tell me if I'm wrong about anything so far.
Nope.
Okay, good. So I want to, before we get to the Behind the Smile campaign, which I told you before we went on, I said, this is like such a good idea. Who could have possibly come up with the idea? And sure, lo and behold, it was you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's a great idea. But just to reintroduce people to Dr. Jason Larocque, earmuffs if you don't want to hear this, but I'm going to go through your history, the things that make you such an expert and things that you've accomplished. A current doctoral instructor at Endicott College, teaching a course on leadership and well-being, which I would absolutely take that course. 20-year teacher, coach, and leader at all boys school. Current CrossFit instructor for 8 years. One day I will be there. I promise. By the way, the random text that you gave, like, hey, we're going to be doing it this Sunday. Want to go? I'm like, boy, I must have looked so miserable last time you saw me. So, but I feel like
I'll get you there someday.
Oh, I definitely will. I woke up at 3:00 in the morning and Instagram started hitting me with all these things about this is what you should do to live longer. And it was all the things that you're doing at the CrossFit. So I'm motivated. PhD in educational leadership, specializing in masculinity, wellness, and leadership. Harvard University baseball captain, active fundraiser for men's health through Movember, Hall of Fame level fundraiser. Congratulations on that. Boston Red Sox Major League bullpen catcher, field staff 2005, 2020, was that 2005 and 2006, right? Correct? Okay.
Yep.
Which is when we first met. Division 1 and 3 college baseball coaching experience. MLB International Envoy Coach, Singapore, China, Philippines, Japan, Vietnam, holy mackerel, Presenter on men's health, boys' education, and supporting young men at school districts working with parents and faculty. Guest speaker with college programs, Harvard University, Tufts University, and more to come. Which I know there's more to come because your brand has never been hotter, and it has nothing to do with this podcast. But we talk about the Behind the Smile initiative, and this is the last thing I'm gonna read. Behind the Smile is a reminder that often for men, appearances can be deceiving. Beneath a cheerful facade, people may be struggling. Let's cultivate empathy and understanding for men, create a culture where everyone feels safe to be imperfect, to ask for help, and to be their authentic selves. And I'm going to let you take it from there to sort of to put a bow on exactly what this is. And we'll, of course, talk about how people can help. But before you do, I just want to say, like, it's so true, simplistic, accurate. It's a straight ball right down the middle in terms of understanding the importance of this, because and you can tell me sort of the evolution of thinking of this campaign, but how many times have we seen, whether it's young people, a little bit older people, whoever it is, you're like, I didn't know, like I had no idea I had no idea. I had no idea what you were going through. No idea. And I can go to Major League Baseball players, which I saw play in the World Series, who literally I saw them and their demeanor were smiles. I'm just gonna give you one. This guy, Trey Yesevich. Trey Yesevich is the rookie pitcher for the Blue Jays. He always had a smile on his face. And the next thing you know, he's at a press conference having to sort of ward off people sort of going after him and his family on social media. Like, and he's like, oh, wait a second. I thought that guy was happy all the time. I know that's like just one of a trillion examples, but what I'm trying to paint is it's such a great initiative. That's the longest winded way to introduce you, to let you have the floor. Sorry about that, Jason, but
No worries.
wherever you want to pick off from there.
Sure. Well, thank you. The Behind the Smile was an idea that I had each year for my Movember fundraising. I try to come up with a theme or some type of kind of catchy, gimmick to try to get engagement and get people aware of men's issues. This year, I've been doing men's workouts at my gym, and I decided this year to have a professional photographer come and snap black and white photographs up close of the guys after the workouts, kind of in a vulnerable moment, right? They're sweaty. They just got done a workout. They can barely breathe, but we're going to take a real close up of them smiling. And it's going to be kind of dark and black background. So like, you have the smile, and then you have kind of the storm behind them. And the pictures themselves are really powerful. So they're like really well done.
Great pictures. Really good.
Powerful images that kind of show the wrinkles, right? They show the age of these guys. Most of them are in their late 30s, 40s, 50s. And then I had them write reflections about, what is behind your smile? Like, what don't people really know about you? And I had no idea what people would do, right? And these reflections that I've been posting are just so vulnerable and so honest. And what's awesome is, like, I post it, and then I just sit back and I watch like hundreds of people just like the images, like. And then people are like giving them comments like, we love you, like, you're the best, you're a hero. And like, nothing about the post was talking about how good they are at something or how excellent they are. It's like, I'm flawed, I'm imperfect, I struggle, I have these challenges, but we love you anyways. And like, what a powerful message for men to have that pressure taken off their shoulders and just be like, no matter who you are or what you're going through, like, we love you just because of that. And like, that's been really rewarding for me, is to watch these men just be vulnerable, offer this up, and then watch them get all these accolades just from like talking about how they struggle. And the interesting part is, like, a lot of the guys that took the photos, are having a really difficult time sending me the reflections, and they keep saying like, I'm working on it. I swear I'm going to get it to you. I'm working on it. Because either A, they're so scared of doing it, or B, they're so uncomfortable of undoing it, or C, they can't put it into words because they don't have practice, you know? And like I'm just telling them like it doesn't have to be perfect. Just say what's on your mind or your heart, and like let's just roll with it and see how it goes. So that whole journey has been really good. And I was thinking today, I did a post about it. How special would it be as a guy if I could walk into a room and just dump all my baggage and just talk about all the ways I'm imperfect and all the ways I'm struggling. And the audience in the room is just like, come on, bring it. Yep, we got you. Come on in, bring it all. And we love you no matter what. Like, it's a safe space. Come on in and dump it all on us. And we just don't do that enough with men. And we're not trained in how to do it. We don't have the vocabulary. We don't have the safety net to do it. We don't have the experience doing it. So it's really hard. And I watch these guys who I love, super great dads, but they can't put into words the things that they're feeling because they just don't have the practice. They focus so much on other people that they can't even put into words like the things that are happening to them or the way they're feeling about things. So hopefully for me, part of this is like raising money for Movember, but it's also helping these guys unlock a vocabulary or a way of being that is just honest, and that they don't have to even like think about how they present. They can just be themselves. So I'd
So
say that, you know,
no, go
that
ahead.
that's
Keep going.
that's one of the things that, you know, this campaign is about. And then I had another thought the other day, and then I'll kind of just open it up for, you know, questions you might have. But I was thinking about all the ways boys and men struggle in our society. And then I was thinking about all the messages we give our boys when they're little, right? When they're 0 to 3, 0 to 4, we love them in like all these unconditional, patient, kind, forgiving ways. And then something happens where boys don't internalize that way of loving. So they never actually learn how to love themselves in the same ways that we love them as children. And I was just thinking the other day, like how much less suffering would we have if men and boys learned to love themselves like their parents loved them when they were little?
Mm.
You know, accept yourself, forgive yourself, be kind to yourself. Don't expect too much of yourself. It would just be like a much more like kind existence for men and boys. But we've kind of lost that ability to love ourselves no matter what happens or who we are, because we get out of practice, and that's just not what men and boys are told to do. Like, you can't love yourself. Like, your worth is based on what you do or how you perform or the output you put into the world.
I think the perfect example of what you're talking about is you're talking about those guys their photos are taken of. And I can, as you're talking, I can feel those guys trying to do the exercise. They want to do the exercise, right? And I mean, we're talking about like what age about most of the
30, 40s, 30s,
yeah,
40s.
30. So they say that's a great idea. Like I'm trying to go through it in my head, right? To walk into that room, to be tasked with what you're saying. And I could do it, but it might be one of the hardest things to do. And I think it's because of exactly what you said, is that that's not how, you know, we were, especially people involved in sports, I think, is that that's not how we were sort of built and raised and all of that. And then when you're talking, I'm thinking about athletes that I'm around, and this is sort of going to get into like the people that you're addressing and you talking to teams and talking to other people of and thinking like, yeah, they would probably be in the same boat, and they're younger people, and maybe there's more of an acceptance. I don't know. So I guess what, you know, before I get to my question for you, I do want to, the most important question is, in questions that are where can they find these photos and these testimonials that you're talking about, and also most importantly, where can they help in terms of fundraising for Movember?
Sure. So I have a public Instagram account, Coach Larocque. at Coach Larocque, and I'm posting them every day. So you can go there and it's not a private account. Anybody can go there on the web, and you can see the testimonials and the reflections and the photos. Um, I'll also probably do some LinkedIn posts eventually, and then hopefully you'll be able to post like the QRR code or the link to my Movember fundraising page, which I think is great. When I do these campaigns, it's really it's to raise money, but it's also just to change thinking. I mean, if I can change the thinking of, a couple dozen people over the course of a month, then I've done my job, right? It's like I'm just trying to open up a new aperture of the world for people about how to be kind to each other, how to be kind to ourselves, how to, reduce the expectations on ourselves so we always don't feel disappointed in ourselves. But yeah, hopefully you can share that link with
Yeah,
folks,
absolutely.
and then the work, the reflections, the images are on my social media, Instagram, and the gentleman taking the photos is a former college Division I lacrosse player and lacrosse coach, who's one of the most interesting, diverse skill sets of a man I've ever met. He's a carpenter. He's a visual artist, so he does like painting and graphic design. He's a photographer. So he's just like really talented. His name's Brian Pollock, and he takes all the photos. He does a lot of like wedding photography and kind of special event photography on the side. So I wouldn't be doing him justice if I didn't mention his name. So
Yeah, I mean the photos, like you said, the idea is great, the execution is great, but the photos, they're perfectly executed. Like it just to your point, it has the sort of the forward facing image with the black background, and it paints a picture of what exactly the message is or what the conversation is. So
and,
I
and
did
there's no filters,
no,
right? It's like
that's
it's like
amazing.
like the wrinkles are there. It's like
Yeah.
it's just the person. There's nothing, there's no makeup, there's no lighting. It's just like this is the person. It's who they are, and there's no filters, there's no performance. It's just their face. So I think that's powerful too.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So, I talked about like me imagining the people who I'm coming in contact with. You're coming in contact with more and more and more people. Like we said, you went and talked to at Harvard, you talked to Tufts. Um, when you are coming in contact now, are people coming up to you? Are people messaging you? Are you getting reactions? Are you getting questions? Because even I would imagine if you have a setting of a baseball team, the reluctance of someone raising their hand, you know, there might be there. I don't know. I'm really anxious to get sort of like where you feel like the acceptance of your audience has become, and has it changed even in the last year or two?
I would say that the distribution of the audience engagement is kind of like what you would find in any group of men. You're going to have, 5 out of 30 that are willing to speak out loud and have the courage to contribute to the conversation. You're going to have 20 in the middle that are like, just curious and they're listening and maybe they're uncomfortable, but they're taking it in and they're thinking and they're processing. And then you're going to have 5 in the room that are like, I don't want to talk about this stuff. Like, why am I here? I
Mm.
want to hit the cage. I want to hit the cage. And like I may not win them over. Maybe I plant one little seed with some of those guys, but really I'm focusing on the guys in the middle that are kind of intrigued or curious and like want to do it, but don't have the skills or the courage yet. And also giving the guys that are willing to talk, giving them the floor and allowing them to model for the guys in the middle, like what it looks like to engage and have conversation. And I talk about with them, there's 3 parts to this. One is I act, 2 is you witness, and then 3, we change. So when you're building culture and you're trying to create a norm or an environment, and let's say for me, it's like authenticity and vulnerability. If one person acts, so one guy steps forward and says, I had this experience, I'm dealing with this, I'm worried about this. Everybody witnesses that courage, then we're more likely to change as a result. So I talk about that process, about how all it takes is one person to step up and be vulnerable, and then it sets a new norm that we all witness, and then we can change our practice together. And I'll give you a quick, I'll give you like a sense of what we do together. So one of the first things I did with the teams, I bring them in and I have them evaluate themselves in like 10 criteria in their life, and I have them score it 0 to 10, 10 being high, 0 being like the worst ever. And I said, over the last week, I want you to rate these different aspects of your life 0 to 10. And they write it down and they reflect a little bit. It's quiet. And then I bring them back together and I say, okay, how many of you in this room know somebody else, coach, player, staff, anybody in the room, because the adults are there too, who has a 5 or less in any one area that they scored? And like 5 or 6 hands will go up. Like, I know somebody. Not me, but I know somebody. So we all look around. All right, 5 or 6 guys. How do you know that? Well, they told me, okay, or I observed it, or I have a feeling, I'm watching their behaviors, or, they've changed and they haven't told me, but I have a sense. All right, cool. Now, how many of you in the room are 5 or below for any one of these? 15 to 20 hands go up. So then I make the connection for them. I'm like, wait a minute. Only 5 of you knew for sure that someone else in the room had a 5 or below in these ratings, but 20 of you are at 5 or below. So what's the disconnect? How are 15 guys walking around and nobody knows this? And they're like, oh, wow. Oh, I don't know. So then we talk about it. Like, who had a 5? Who had a 4? Who had a 3? Anyone want to share? And I model it. I talk about my life, how I maybe have a 4 in one area, and I talk about it. So then we start talking about it. And really what we get to is like the idea that no one should ever be below a 6 and not have it known. Like, if to me, if your team culture is one of vulnerability, trust, and honesty, then everybody should be known who's going through something by someone else in the room. Doesn't have to be everybody, but it has to be somebody. And to me, that's like what we're striving for, is like, you lose people, mental health, tragically, maybe their life at some point, because they're walking around with all these 5, 4, 3s, 2s, and 1s, and then no one else knows. So the idea that I tell them is like, we're never going to be below a 6 alone. Like, that's gone. We can't do that. And it just gets them to think. And then we talk about like, well, what are some pathways where we can build in accountability around this? Like, so we talk about different ways to do it. I talk about, like, I have a text thread with my friends where we do a Monday check-in and we do a Friday review. So someone on Monday says, how's everyone's week, looking up? And everyone will be like, oh, I'm stressed about this. I'm having a hard time with this. All right, cool. I got you. Here's some advice. And then on Fridays, we do a review. How's everyone's week? And we just, check in. So I told them that works for us, and it gives us accountability so that you can dump to the group in a safe environment and protect each other. But then I gave them other ideas, like a breakfast club. Saturday mornings, have a breakfast club. Everyone gets up early, start the day, win the day, share dialogue, have conversation. I talked about a midnight curfew club. So if there's 4 or 5 guys that you want to make sure they're all, making healthy choices and they're protecting each other, at midnight on Fridays and Saturdays, someone sends out the text, bed check, and then people check in. Yep. All right, we're good. Oh, one guy's missing. What does that mean? Now we're on his case. Like, where were you? What happened? You good? Oh no, I went to bed at 10. All right, cool. But like, we build in these accountability structures where, like, we'll know if someone's having a hard time versus either guessing or never knowing.
So, one of the things that, and we may have talked about this before, I don't remember, but I think it's really important, is when we talk about how when you're teaching someone to play a sport, the most important instructors are the youth instructors, right? They're teaching you the fundamentals, and the case is that that's not, it's just backwards. I mean, it's not usually the most, what may be well-meaning, but they're not the most qualified. I think that for what we're talking about, I'm anxious to get your thoughts on that dynamic where, professional teams, Major League Baseball teams, for instance, they've gone from one mental health guy to a bunch of them. They're saying they're prioritizing it all over the place. MLB, they say they're prioritizing it all over the place. Much more. They have now. You can go on the injured list for anxiety. Now it's accepted. Great. There's more work to be done, but great. But then you get into college. All right. Well, how much is the support system in college? Then you get to high school. Well, how much is the support system there for youth baseball? You know, the people there, they're just trying to make sure that everyone shows up on time and has a good time. I would imagine. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, it's backwards.
Well, I would make the case that, the sports psych folks at the major league level, the psychologists at the major league level, they're unpacking the trauma from childhood that has never been resolved. So like they're doing the work that should have been done a long time ago that these guys are carrying in to their careers, right?
Mm.
Like I'm a school administrator. When I first started in this work, I carried stuff in from my childhood that affected my leadership and my mental health, and I had to put in work to like deal with that before I could actually be effective in my relationships and my leadership. So it's no different as a baseball player. Like you don't just wake up at 21 making a major league roster and be like, "Oh, I'm all set now."
Yeah.
Like you carry all that stuff in with you, your experiences, your traumas, your all the things you've been dealing with. It doesn't go anywhere, so you bring it with you. It's in your bat bag, like metaphorically, it's in your bat bag.
Mm.
And I think we just don't do enough. We don't encourage boys and men, young men, early enough to work on their issues in safe spaces without stigma or shame. And unfortunately, so where is it going to appear? It's going to appear when I'm a professional because I'm expected to be independent on my own, have it all figured out, and we don't. So, I think we do a disservice when we don't allow young men to like be vulnerable and authentic with low risk, right? Because when I'm a professional, it's high risk, like it's very
Mm.
important. But when they're in their teens and early 20s, like it's low risk. That's a great time to experiment with vulnerability and honesty.
So how do we crack that nut? You're cracking the nut. You're doing your part, right? But obviously, I think that to be perfectly honest with you, this is why every time we talk to you, it's such an important conversation. And I think that's why people are drawn to it because they're like, oh, wait a second. I didn't think of that. I mean, honestly, like, and so how do we crack that nut? How do we turn the tide? Have you heard of or sensed organizations that are trying to execute what you're preaching more than just you?
I think it takes a special program because, even college, basically you're trying to win games, right? When winning is on the line, you have to make some courageous decisions to care about the kids, right? Like, and I think you can do both. I think you can win and care about people, but it's hard. It's hard to do both those things. Um, I think the best thing we can do for young adults, young athletes, and younger pro athletes is not depend on psychologists and mental skills coaches to do the work of healthy men's health. Like that's not, we shouldn't just save that bucket for those folks. I think men at all levels that work with student athletes and eventually pro athletes, those men need to be fully integrated human beings. So like the best thing a high school coach can do is work on himself.
Mm.
The best thing a college coach can do is work on himself, be integrated, be honest, be vulnerable, talk about your imperfections, talk about how hard you're working, but that sometimes it doesn't work out. Cry in front of your athletes. Someone passes away in the program, like be vulnerable, cry. Um, and I think like those integrations of humanity and like emotions and being a full range human, I think is really important for boys and men. And I think for us just to rely on the mental skills coaches to do that for athletes, I think is really a disservice. And it lets all of us that are coaches at the youth levels get off the hook.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
someone else will deal with that later. I'm just going to focus on winning, and I'm fine just the way I am as the coach and the way I show up, yelling,
Yeah.
tough love, like all these things. Like that's fine. That's just who I am. And I think like, if I'm an athlete and I get 7 seasons of tough love from men coaches, and all of a sudden I have a rough patch, like where have I learned how to handle failure with grace? Like never. No one's taught me
Mm.
that. When I get in the car after a game and my dad says to me, how'd you do versus how much fun did you have? Or, you know, tell me something you did to help other people on the team. Like those are the questions that matter. Um, and I think just like the we need men to show up for other boys as fully human and integrated people. And I think that's what we can control. And I think just my mission, my call is to create spaces where men can do that and learn how to do that so that the next time they're with their son, the next time they're coaching that team, they can be vulnerable. They can cry, they can give hugs. Like, that's what I can offer people is like a model of that. And I wasn't always that way. I very much was a victim of the whole, there's one way to be a man and tough it out, and
Mm.
everything is measurable and you either win or you lose and that's all there is. Like I was a victim of that. So I'm not saying I have it all figured out, but I've done a lot of work to try to figure out what went wrong for me, and how I can help others kind of not have that same suffering.
I should note also, I asked where, I use the term like, how are we going to crack that nut? Well, I mean, how are we going to impact what you're talking about with the lower levels? And I should note that Jared Porter, who we mentioned before, it has started a company called Blend, which is it's trying to do exactly that. So, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that, and because I'm as we talked about before with Jared, it's super important, and I really applaud him for doing that. I it's funny because you have the let's say the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, 60s guys, and you're trying to get them to understand vulnerability, right? It's two different things. Getting them to understand vulnerability for themselves and also to pass it on. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, and I coach high school basketball, and I remember in the last few years coaching, and maybe it was because of some of our conversations that we had. I don't know, but be very cognizant that how I am coaching, how I'm addressing these varsity high school players are has to be different than what I did. Has to be different from what I did even a few years before. And I remember, for instance, last year, purposely, you go in every year, you know how this is. You go in every year, the plan, this is what I'm going to do, this is what so offense we're going to run, this is everything else. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to listen to them more. I'm going to try to be more cognizant of their problems. And I tried. I tried to do that. I tried to say, "How was your day?" That was my key. How was your day? Right? Instead of just blowing through it. But even then, I felt like, okay, I'm I'm aware of it, but I don't know if I'm executing the right way because I'm not really getting a lot back. And I put a lot of that on myself because once again, I was learning how to do it. Much like, they're trying to learn how to be vulnerable, but we have to learn how to actually get that from them. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think good coaches and good dads, and I'll speak about men because that's what kind of the topic of, Movember is in my work. But good coaches and good dads either are excellent because of the model that they had or because they're trying to prevent the trauma that they experienced lingering on, moving on into the next generation. And I think that good coaches treat their players like their own children, right?
Mm.
Like they're parenting them, they're loving them, they're trying to see them for who they are. And I think the coaches that don't get it are the ones that are trying to, force those players into their own image. And like the only person I know that does that is God, right? Like that's the only time it works is when we're created in the image of God. But like that's not a job. A coach's job is not to make players like him. The job is to get the best out of each player based on their unique profile. And I think that, going back to how do we crack the nut of working with boys and men earlier so that they're healthier when they're adults is parent them, right? Like I parent 300 middle school kids at the school I work at. I'm not their parent, but I have to raise them. They're with me 8 hours a day. And I think that, by loving others, eventually we learn how to love ourselves. And by learning how to love ourselves, it helps us love others better. Love is not a finite thing. It doesn't go away, right? If I love someone else, that means I have no love left for myself. Love is abundant. And I think it's generated more by giving more of it. The more I give it, the more I have. The more I have, the more I give. So I think like, what I'm trying to do with these guys that I work with and these boys I work with is like, do you love yourself? Can you love yourself a little bit more? And then can you turn that into love of other people? But like the whole process is just really uncomfortable and unnatural for a lot of guys. It just really is. And I kind of laugh at it sometimes because I'm over that. Like I'm all in. I'm all in on love and I'm all in on healthy masculinity. But it's just watching some of these guys, it's like dinosaurs roaming the earth, like, looking for a patch of grass. Like it's like, guys, there's grass everywhere. Like literally there's grass over our heads everywhere. You just have to open up your eyes and see it. But it, once they see it and once they're like, oh, it's not that scary, or look at Larocque over there, like he's doing it. Like maybe I'll try this. I can't tell you the number of people that message me out of the blue and they're like, keep doing what you're doing. It's working. I would never tell this person like you're having an impact on me because I make it less scary or like less weird for people, I guess. I don't know.
So it's such a good point. And I hope you keep getting those messages and we're going to keep spreading the word. And I want to make sure that once again, we get the right place. We direct people in the right places. I got to give you your website, coachlarocque.com. And that's of course, COACH. Now, LAROCQUE. I will say
Correct.
Yep. And then, of course, Instagram, which I think is maybe the most important thing because that's where people love to digest those photos from Movember. And it's at Coach Larocque, LAROCQUE.
Correct.
So, again, we'll do everything we can. It's a great cause. It's a great message. It's honestly a great conversation. It just is. And I see it. I'm seeing it trickle in to Major League Baseball clubhouses, right? Slowly, but trickle in to Major League. Oh, there it is. Oh my goodness, Scott! What you're holding up is Scott Miller's book, "Why Baseball Managers Matter," and I'm so glad you did that. First of all, because I can't say enough things about Scott Miller, who just passed away, but why baseball managers matter. Oh my goodness. Right?
I mean, I read this book and I wanted to have it in case an opportunity came up, but like why they matter now is because human relationships matter, right? Like they always have, but the days of command and control players doesn't work anymore. Like people need their emotional and spiritual tanks full, and we need to like make sure people are healthy before they step foot on the competition field. Whereas before, I think people could like smoke a Marlboro or tell someone they're a jackass, and then they go out and go 4 for 4. That doesn't work anymore. Like people matter, and people have needs, right? And like I haven't been in pro ball for a while, but like my sense is that the managers that are having the most success right now are really able to leverage the emotional life of these guys. and you leverage the emotional life of these guys by allowing them to be emotional. Like you can't tamp that down. And I think it's the same thing with boys that I teach in middle school. Like if I tell them stop crying or toughen up or get over it, what the hell does that do for them? They're just going to ignore themselves. They're going to get frustrated and it's going to come out. Right. And I think these managers these days and the ones that I'm seeing winning, they really care about people, and they know that the game is more than winning. It's about developing better humans.
What's interesting is that I'm glad you brought up not book for a couple different reasons, but that the conversation about managers. I do find it fascinating about which managers succeed now. Now, a lot of the older managers are succeeding, but I think that it's in large part because they've come to understand what's important. Like they aren't micromanaging. They are like say, here are the rules, be yourself, it's okay. There's the days of, to your point, of like it's my way or the highway and getting on these guys and the fire and brimstone. No. And then conversely, if you see the hiring cycle recently, I mean, Drew Butera of the Washington Nationals is what, 33? And, Greg Stammen, who just was hired by the Padres early, I think he's 41, just got out of playing. You're seeing younger and younger guys because I do think that, to your point, there's an understanding that the manager has to go out, has to be able to walk out into the clubhouse and have have conversations with people, right? Like that, there is that understanding. So it's just always been really interesting about why guys get hired, what the trend of guys getting hired is, because it's all over the place. But you brought up.
I spent 2 years in Major League clubhouse with the Red Sox, and they are, accomplished professional athletes, but they're still young boys who still have the same emotional needs we all did when we were playing. And as a bullpen catcher, I'm the one that's sitting with them in the hotel room processing what they're feeling because they can't do it publicly.
Mm.
And I think we're making strides with where like people can talk about what's happening in their lives and it's not stigmatized. It's not a setback. It's not a black mark on their career. It's just being open and honest and vulnerable. And I think the managers are starting to be a little more open to that. Like, can we just really be real? Can we be real with each other and be who we are?
That's a great way to put it.
And then it takes things out of the shadows, and it just allows us to show up on the field and be ourselves and feel psychologically safe because we're not hiding anything.
Mm.
Doesn't mean you're reckless with your emotions or like you're irresponsible, but it means like if you have a thoughtful emotion and you're kind of stuck in a pattern of thinking that's, within reason, like, let's just talk about it. Let's be open about it. Nothing wrong with that. So I think the emotional literacy of these guys is a lot better than maybe it was in the past.
That's a great way to put it. All right, we're going to end on that note. That's a great way to put it. But thanks, man. Is there anything else I'm missing at all?
No, I just want to say thank you for being a partner. And I think you do a really good job of like reporting the human side of things, the business side of things, the performance side of things. And I think you should be commended for your courage to like talk about things that, really matter and that, can help change lives if people adopt some of these things. So thank you.
Well, it's all right. I appreciate that. But I'm fueled on venti. What do I get at Starbucks? I used to get Emperor's Cloud. Which is a green tea. Now I get English breakfast because it has caffeine in it.
There you go.
I'm fueled by that. But thank you for those nice words and thank you for all that you do. And again, we'll keep the cause going.
All right. Thanks, Rob.